Okay, so here we are, and there's only my hand. No, just kidding. So when I did the Hasegawa MR2 build, I had said during that I would do a little, because I am doing this for my brother because he had an MR2 when he got out of college. It was like his dream car at the time. I figured when I saw the kit, oh, this will be great. I can build it for him. That'll be a nice thing, I think, for him to have. But I'll put it in a case, and rather than just handing him a car and say, here you go, uh, here's a book, I forgot to wrap it. No, instead of just handing him the car and it's exposed, I thought I would do a little presentation type for it. So if he enjoys it, he can have it on his shelf and whatnot. So I figured I didn't have enough time in the video for the build of the car to include this part of it. And I also thought as I was going through it, if someone isn't necessarily interested in building this car, they may still be interested in, doing the presentation like I am planning to do here, or something similar, whatever the case may be. But if it helps get the creative juices flowing, that's the point. So what are we going to do? Well, I picked up at my local hobby store this display case. So now this says it's for 1/18th scale vehicles. Obviously our little MR2 is much smaller than that, but I went with a 1/18th scale case because I want to have space for the car, and I want to have space for a little information stand that I'm going to make on the side. So it's not just the car, there's a little something to go with it. Also, I don't want to put the car in just straight like a bug in a cage. I want to have it offset a little bit. I'm not going to be permanently mounting it to the base, so or my brother has it however he wants to put the car in there. Point being, he'll have some options for placement, so that's why I went with the bigger case. As you can see, $24.99 for doing something like this. Really not that big of an investment. The 1/24th scale cases are a little bit lower in price. I don't recall if the price is a proportion to the scale, but anyway, it's a little bit cheaper. But then your car is basically going to be sitting in a very tight confines, as you see, similar to how this 18th scale car is sitting in this case. So what's in the case? Well, we get our dust-free case, the dome. Apparently these are stackable. Okay. Hole guides for securing the vehicles. They give you some ties to go around the axle and hold it in place. Again, I will not be doing that. And includes 4 optional backdrops, which sounds pretty cool. So, because of the magic of YouTube, I've already taken things out to show you. So let's take a look at the case itself. Now, it did come nicely packaged, wrapped in a clear, wrapped in a poly sheet so that it wouldn't be scratched or anything. And, it's not marked in any way, which is good to see. So that's a good start. Now, I can't touch the car because I have a clear coat drying on that. So that will just sit there. But underneath, these are the ties. If you wish to secure the axles, you would have to drill those through, loop them around, and they're those metallic ties. So that's the case. The lid just sits on top. Let me slide that back. Now, as far as the backdrops go, this is actually pretty neat. I won't be using them, but they give you these, and they will go against the back pane of the cover. And we have what looks like, an auto shop, back printed with screaming down the raceway to the finish line. We have the light pole in front of the grandstands. That would be cool for like a dragster. And if you do, when I saw it, I was thinking, like an old 50s style rod, or one of those V8 on a old Model T type roadster deals, to drive through. And there we go. Ideas for the making. I'm not going to use the backing, so I'm just going to hold on to those. But what I will be using, instead of just the plain base in the case, I'm going to put down a sheet of this Evergreen 1/6 inch square tile. And what I'm going to do is paint this to hopefully give it sort of like a cobblestone appearance. So I'll spray it and then go back and do, wow, I just completely lost my train of thought. So yeah, I'm going to prime it, then do, the primer will be sort of like what the mortar would be, and then spray it with, a different shade of gray, and maybe just with a brush speckle in, maybe like a white or something to represent a little bit of the reflective property of the surface. And the sheet, now I'm not going to use for the whole thing because on the side I want that little informational placard, but fortunately the sheet works out well size wise, so I'll just have to trim a little bit off and the car will sit there, and then the little informational piece will sit on the side here. I will make that out of plain sheet styrene, sorry, turn away from the camera, square stock to make the frame, and then some plain sheet styrene like this stuff to make the placard. And for the what would be the information on the placard in the display, this is the instruction sheet from the Toyota MR2, but they give you a little bit of history of the car. So I'm going to condense this so I can measure out an area. I bought some Avery clear labels. I'm going to put that in my printer, print it out, then mount that onto the corresponding size rectangle of the clear styrene. So that should look, I think that should look pretty nice when it's done. Obviously we'll see when the video's done. I'm not doing this post having done everything, so I don't know what it's gonna quite look like yet myself, but that's the suspense. But again, point being, if you want to do something with your models, you don't have to be restrained to build it and put it on a shelf. And if you'll forgive me for messing with the camera, but if I pan up on my shelves in my little hobby area here, you can see, I just tend to put them right up on the shelf there and have them around me while I build. I find that a little inspirational while I'm working to look at the things I've done. But if you have things that maybe you want, like upstairs in a bookcase or something, you can do something more than just having the car. This is also great in a setting like that to keep the car more dust free. Down here in my basement, is semi-finished. I'm not going to show you that on camera because it's embarrassing, but it's not like a high dust environment, so I don't worry about having the kits out in the open, including the Gundams back there. Everything is just fine. But if you go back to when I did the Ryfield Panther build with the cutaway hull, that I have upstairs in our den, and it's not covered, with a clear cover, but I have it on the rotating base I made. So if you want to see how I did that, that's in episode 3 of the Panther build. I don't remember off the top of my head which episode that was, but I have a funny feeling the wise guy, which happens to be me, who types the comments in the bottom of the video frame will supply that information and might just make a little cheap jab at me for not remembering which episode that was. Anyway, enough talk. All right, so I'm going to get started with that stuff, some JPEGs, and I'll probably pop in to talk about how it goes as it goes. All right, so as always, thank you for watching. Please do subscribe, share, like, all, as I say, all that happy YouTube stuff. Okay, so now back to it. Okay, so we have a piece of the stock styrene square tile. Now, I did take some pictures as I did the spray painting to create this effect, but I found it was very hard on camera when I looked at the pictures to really see the difference of what I was doing step by step. So I thought I would just take a moment to explain that. So this started as white styrene. First thing I did was spray it with an even coat of flat black. So that gave me my base. I then went using all stuff that I already had. I hit it with this Rustoleum primer. That is the base gray that you see. The next thing I did, I came in because I had Mr. Surface Primer, which is a much lighter gray. I came in and this I lightly sprayed, and that started to give some of the gray model effect that you would see like from a cobblestone, because it's pretty much what I was aiming to create. And then last but not least, I just misted it with some white, and that gave this somewhat speckled effect, which again, I know it is hard to see on camera. I am trying my best to allow you to see how this looks. Now, on this one, I did do some experimenting with you know, panel liners to highlight what would be the sand or grout between the cobbles, and I used some brown, I used some gray, I used some black. The black worked best, and as you saw in the videos, the video clips of me doing this, you know, I just put it on with a brush, not even using the little pin tip applicator that comes with the panel liner, but using a fairly large brush and just stroking it in there. You know, the neat thing with the panel liner is if you let it sit for a second, it's going to start settling into the existing paint that is on there. So then when I wiped it with the paper towel, what was left was just in the grooves, and then we get that effect. So yes, the brown and the gray here are offsetting a little bit, but you can see some, again, hopefully you can see some of the white, and it's, yes, it is a subtle effect, but you know, you have to remember, like with everything else you do when you're doing detail work and paint effects, things are going to register with the human eye that you don't necessarily consciously notice. So you're not trying to do something here where someone can look and say, oh, I see a white spot and a white spot and a white spot. You don't want that. That's actually taking away from the visual effect you're trying to create. It should harmonize to a certain extent, and then you'll have what you want. So, you know, if you look at a bunch of cobblestones from far away, you know, they're not just gray. There are other things going on there in terms of color, but they are closely related in color. So if you make that effect, and again here I did as I said, the solid black spray, a medium coat of the darker gray, a light coat of the lighter gray, and then just the misting of the white. There's nothing scientific about it. Really, it was just about how far away I had my hand with the spray can when I sprayed. So the black, I was up tight and close because I wanted to get every nook and cranny. This, I was, you know, probably back about here, good 18 inches away. The surface primer was probably about a good 2 feet away, and the white, I stood back, you know, and didn't even point it at the styrene. I kind of pointed away, just sprayed and a thin cloud, and just let it settle down, and there it was. So simple. It was a simple thing to do, and you know, the nice thing with the sheet styrene, you have a lot of surface area to practice with. So if you're not sure, you can take a sheet, practice something like this before you go live with your actual material you're going to use. Okay, that's that. Back to the work. Alrighty. And here we have it all done. So hopefully the JPEGs and the little video clips that I had shown in the interim laid everything out clearly as to how I did this. Not so much to be like a direct step-by-step tutorial, but more so to give you an idea, and that's really what this was all about doing this video, is to give you an idea of how you could go about doing something like this if you want to have a more formal presentation of a kit that you've built, and also to show you how you can get certain effects with really minimal expenditures of effort. Now, I found this rather enjoyable, as it kind of you know, reminded me of the days when I did do some diorama building, and I had a little model railroad when I was much younger. My father was a big model railroad guy, and you know, we used to work together making the little sceneries and mountains and fields and all this type of decoration. And this really isn't something that I ventured into, aside from the gravel base I did for the Ryfield Panther model, actually doing grass and little shrubberies and whatnot. I haven't gotten involved in that, boy, decades. So, you know, this was fun. It was a real blast from the past, as I said, to get involved with something like that. You know, the products, especially from Woodland Scenics, are really good to use. They're simple. Most importantly, they look great when you put them down, and they are readily available, which is nice too. Now, everything that you saw me work with in this video, I purchased at one of my local hobby stores, Willis Hobbies, so I'll give them a shout out. The reason I mention that specifically is when you're doing something like this, where you want to create, even in this case, a very simple terrain effect. At Willis Hobbies, they do have a section just for landscaping / diorama work. You know, model railroad people get heavily involved in this type of treatment to lend a realism to their set displays, and certainly people who just want to do dioramas, you know, for kits. You know, military model people can get quite involved in diorama building. So in any event, it is nice when you can go someplace and actually see the materials that you want to work with. And also, you know, when you see the stuff and you can pick it up and see the texture and the true color grain of it and how they might work together, you know, it helps to foster some ideas, and in some ways, you know, make what you're going to do a lot easier to visualize and thereby attain. So, you know, because I hadn't done anything like this in so long, I wanted to hold the grass mix in my hand, and they had a couple of different varieties, and I chose this one, you know. And then I saw the little shrubberies there, and I thought, oh, that's, you know, they're, as you saw, they were pre-made, stuck on a sheet, peel them off, you stick them right on. I did use some cyanoacrylate just to make sure that they stuck and stayed in place, because I did do it stepwise. Pretty much what you saw in the little video clips in doing the base was the pace that I was working at. Once I got going, I just wanted to see it through to completion. But there you go. Now I'm just going to take the lid off here so we can see without any distortion of the angle. If you hadn't stopped the video earlier to read this text, I just brought in, I retyped it, paraphrased from the instructions for the Hasegawa kit that served as the MR2 example that we see here. And I just typed in there, debuting in June 1984, the Toyota MR2 offered a 1.6 liter 4-cylinder DOHC engine, propelling a lithe 1120 kilogram GVW. In the true spirit of mid-engine design, the MR2 featured a near-perfect 45-55 weight distribution. The MR2 won the 5th Annual Japan Car of the Year Award, 1984 to 85. First generation MR2 design concept centered on a sharply sloped windshield and compact two-seat layout. The intent was to provide the vehicle profile with a stable horizontal axis connecting a low front nose and high rear, characterized by an interplay of minor curves and sharp angles. So, not that I don't think you can read, but I just wanted to accentuate that because I tried to word it in the way that you might see a display at a car show or a car museum, because that's kind of the idea here, to replicate something like that. Now you will notice I did add one thing, which is the handy little shaft to pop open the engine lid. I just hand drilled a hole through the base and dropped that in, because it is a pretty, insignificant little thing to drop in there. Nice and simple. So let's turn this around so you can see a little bit more. And now you can see, oops, got a little grass came loose. Now this is a natural part when you work with landscaping materials, because you are patting it down. Not all of it will be permanently bonded with that glue to the surface. So some of it will, dust off in effect, and, you will have these little minor cleanups to do every now and then, but no big deal. These things really aren't meant to be handled or played with. You make your scenery, and, basically you leave it alone at that point. So there is still a bit of handling because I'm turning it and tipping it and all this sort of nonsense. So there we go. Now, that is that. So I am hoping this gives you a little bit of an indication, like I said, how simple it is to do something like this, and how you can, with a few simple materials, really do something special with the kit that you've built to display it on your shelf. And also, you won't have to worry about dust and fingerprints and whatnot getting at your kit, because you have this nice cover. And one of the things I thought was neat about these displays is the fact that they are stackable. So even though you would lose the light coming in to see the display on your shelf, you could have, depending on your shelf, let's say 2 or 3 of these guys stacked up, and there you go. You could always add a little LED lighting to get some more light in there. Food for thought. So there you go. So I hope you enjoyed it. As usual, thank you for watching, and please do like and subscribe and share with your other hobby people, and hopefully you get to display your kit in something fancy as well. So I will wrap this one up, and until the next build. Alrighty, thank you.